how to think and speak. Alex often wondered why you should not learn English. The thought echoed in his mind, a constant refrain. He observed others effortlessly converse, feeling a pang of inferiority. English seemed an insurmountable mountain, shrouded in a fog of grammar rules and intimidating vocabulary. He simply couldn't fathom how anyone mastered it. His greatest fear was always making a mistake. "I don't want make mistake but I always why," he'd sigh, reviewing his attempts. The words would tangle, pronunciation felt alien, and the sheer terror of sounding foolish paralyzed him. Every interaction felt like a public performance, destined for an embarrassing error. He often argued internally about the futility of it all. "Why bother?" he'd muse. "My life is fine without it." Yet, deep down, a quiet whisper of regret persisted. Opportunities slipped by, conversations remained beyond his grasp, and a world of information stayed locked away. This self-imposed language barrier created a noticeable isolation. Social gatherings where English was spoken became immediate avoidance zones for Alex. He'd retreat, pretending disinterest, while inside, a longing for connection festered. The inability to articulate his thoughts felt like a suffocating cage. Even simple tasks, like ordering coffee in an English-speaking cafe, became sources of intense anxiety. His heart would pound, palms would sweat, and the few rehearsed phrases would vanish from his memory. The fear was a tangible weight, pressing down on his ambition and spirit constantly. One day, a dream job posting appeared, demanding fluent English. Alex stared, a profound sense of despair washing over him. It was a perfect fit otherwise, yet the language requirement was an impenetrable wall. This single moment felt like a punch to his very core. The realization hit hard: his avoidance wasn't protecting him, it was actively sabotaging his future. He saw clearly how many doors remained shut, how many possibilities were denied, all because of this single, yet utterly dominant, linguistic apprehension. It was a stark, undeniable truth. A tiny, fragile spark ignited within Alex. What if he could change? What if the daunting mountain was actually climbable? The thought was terrifying, yet exhilarating simultaneously. He pictured himself confidently speaking, a vision he had previously dismissed as utterly impossible for him. He pondered, could someone like him, so deeply rooted in fear of error, truly learn how to think and speak effectively in English? The task seemed monumental, the past failures looming large. Doubt was a persistent shadow, whispering tales of inevitable failure again and again. Despite the overwhelming apprehension and past disappointments, Alex decided to try. He committed to facing his fear head-on, no matter how uncomfortable it felt. This decision wasn't born of sudden confidence, but a quiet, desperate resolve. It was a leap of faith into the unknown. His first step was, listen and practice. He started with children's songs and simple dialogues, feeling incredibly silly. Repeating basic phrases, his tongue felt clumsy and foreign. Progress was agonizingly slow, each word a battle against his own self-consciousness and inner critic. Differentiating between similar sounds proved incredibly frustrating initially. Is that ship or sheep? He'd wonder, utterly bewildered. The subtle nuances of pronunciation seemed impossible to grasp. This stage tested his patience, pushing him close to giving up entirely multiple times. He found simple audio lessons, diligently repeating every sentence, every phrase. It was a mechanical, often boring process, lacking any real spark. Yet, he persisted, trying to internalize the rhythm and intonation, even when the meaning felt distant and abstract at best. The tedious nature of rote memorization almost broke him. There were days he stared at flashcards, feeling utter despair. His motivation would waver precariously, questioning the entire endeavor. He had to constantly remind himself of the goal, the dream job. Then, small victories began to emerge. Understanding a single new word in context, catching a familiar phrase on the radio. These brief moments of clarity provided a much-needed flicker of encouragement, reinforcing his decision to continue this arduous language journey. The true breakthrough came with "Learn English Through Stories." A friend suggested a simple graded reader, and Alex reluctantly picked it up. To his surprise, the narrative pulled him in, distracting from the usual pressure of language acquisition. It felt different, engaging. Immersing himself in captivating narratives, Alex often forgot he was actually studying. The plots, the characters, the emotional arcs, they transported him. This enjoyable escape made the learning process feel organic and surprisingly effortless, unlike any previous method. The stories brought words to life, giving them context and emotional weight. Vocabulary stuck in his mind not as isolated definitions, but as integral parts of thrilling adventures or heartfelt dialogues. This method was a revelation, transforming dull words into vibrant tools. He realized that stories provided natural language patterns, idioms, and common expressions that textbooks never could. The flow of conversation, the nuances of dialogue, all became clearer within these compelling narratives. It was like acquiring language naturally, through immersion. This new approach felt less like a chore and more like a cherished hobby. Alex looked forward to his daily reading sessions, eager to discover what happened next in his current story. The enjoyment fueled his consistency, a vital component for true progress. The stories built his vocabulary naturally and contextually. He wasn't memorizing lists, he was absorbing words as part of a larger, meaningful tapestry. This passive acquisition was incredibly effective, making retention far easier and more profound than before. Alex started anticipating plot twists, connecting narrative threads, which greatly improved his overall comprehension skills. He wasn't just understanding words, he was understanding implied meanings and cultural references, a massive leap in his language proficiency journey. Reading became a sacred daily ritual for Alex, a source of quiet joy and continuous, subtle progress. He carried a book everywhere, seizing every spare moment to delve into new worlds, always learning without the usual associated stress. This continuous, enjoyable exposure slowly but surely reshaped Alex's entire understanding of English. His brain began to think in English more often, the translation step slowly diminishing. It was an almost imperceptible, yet profoundly impactful, transformation daily. The pervasive fear of encountering new, unfamiliar words began to dissipate, replaced instead by a genuine curiosity. Each unknown word was no longer a hurdle but an exciting new discovery, waiting to be understood within its narrative context. Now came the ultimate challenge, facing his core issue: I don't want make mistake but I always why. Reading was passive, speaking was active and exposed. The idea of opening his mouth and potentially failing still sent shivers down his spine. The relentless internal self-criticism was his worst enemy. Every time he mispronounced a word or stumbled over a sentence, a harsh voice would condemn him. It made him want to retreat, to hide from all possible linguistic blunders. A supportive online community member offered sage advice: mistakes are not failures, Alex, they are merely steps on your path. This simple wisdom resonated deeply, slowly shifting his perspective from self-flagellation to gentle self-correction. He began to embrace imperfection, understanding it as a necessary, indeed vital, part of any true learning journey. The goal wasn't flawless speech instantly, but continuous improvement, one small, imperfect step at a time. This was liberating. Alex started deliberately seeking opportunities to speak, despite his voice trembling initially. He joined online language exchange groups, forcing himself into conversations he'd previously avoided at all costs. It was terrifying, yet exhilarating. He started with small, low-stakes conversations, carefully selecting patient and understanding partners. These initial interactions were filled with awkward pauses and hesitant sentences. Yet, the kindness he received slowly built a fragile layer of confidence. The constant search for the right words, the frustrating inability to express complex thoughts quickly, remained a challenge. He'd often get stuck, feeling a familiar surge of inadequacy. But he remembered the advice: keep trying, even imperfectly. Each faltering attempt, each clumsy sentence uttered, slowly but surely chipped away at his deep-seated fear of public speaking. The monster in his mind, that hypercritical judge, began to shrink, losing its formidable power. He was surprised to find that most people were incredibly patient, often encouraging his efforts rather than correcting every single error. This positive reinforcement was transformative, creating a safe space for him to make mistakes freely. The sheer joy of finally expressing a simple thought clearly in English, even a basic one, was immense. It was a tangible victory, a small moment of triumph that fueled his desire to speak even more confidently and frequently. Gradually, Alex moved from basic exchanges to more complex discussions. He sought out topics he was passionate about, which made the conversations feel more natural and engaging. His curiosity now drove his linguistic ambition forward constantly. He actively applied principles of how to think and speak in real-time interactions. He focused on clarity, pausing to organize his thoughts, and not rushing to fill silence with unnecessary words. This improved his coherence. The most significant shift came when he began to formulate thoughts directly in English, rather than mentally translating from his native language. This breakthrough eliminated a significant hurdle, making his speech much more fluid and spontaneous. This direct thinking approach brought remarkable clarity and fluency to his spoken English. The words flowed more easily, connecting ideas seamlessly. It was like unlocking a new pathway in his brain, leading straight to confident communication. The previous anxiety surrounding English conversations slowly but surely began to dissolve entirely. He no longer dreaded social interactions. Instead, he embraced them as opportunities to practice and refine his newly acquired communication skills. How to talk to anyone in English transformed from a daunting aspiration into an exciting reality. Alex no longer shied away from strangers or intimidating situations. Each new person was a chance to practice, a potential new friend or connection. He started initiating conversations, no longer waiting passively for others to approach him. This proactive stance boosted his confidence tremendously, making him feel empowered and in control of his linguistic destiny daily. Engaging with diverse individuals from various backgrounds expanded his horizons immensely. He learned about different cultures, perspectives, and ideas, all facilitated by his growing English proficiency. His world became infinitely richer and more interconnected. The world seemed to open up before him, new connections forged daily with ease and genuine enjoyment. No longer was language a barrier, it was a powerful key unlocking global friendships and professional opportunities previously unimaginable. English had truly become a bridge, not a frustrating barrier, a powerful tool for genuine, meaningful connection with people worldwide. This realization was profoundly liberating, changing his entire outlook on life and communication. How to speak with people transitioned from a monumental struggle to a finely honed, natural skill. Alex's voice carried confidence, his expressions were clear, and he engaged effectively, enjoying the process immensely. He noticed significant improvements in his pronunciation, his intonation becoming more natural, and his sentence structure smoother and more complex. His ear for the language sharpened, making listening an active and enjoyable process. His confidence soared, fueled by countless successful and genuinely meaningful interactions every single day. The positive feedback he received, combined with his own sense of accomplishment, created a virtuous cycle of continuous linguistic growth. The old, limiting belief of, why you should not learn English, now seemed utterly absurd, a distant echo from a less informed, fearful past. He often laughed, remembering his initial stubborn reluctance and profound anxieties. Reading continued to reinforce all the speaking progress he had made. The stories provided a rich reservoir of vocabulary and idiomatic expressions, which he effortlessly integrated into his conversations, making them more vibrant and expressive. Alex was no longer the person paralyzed by language fears, shrinking from every English interaction. He stood tall, spoke clearly, and engaged enthusiastically. The transformation was complete, profound, and deeply satisfying for him daily. The challenging journey from, I don't want make mistake but I always why, to fluent, confident speech was an incredible testament to his perseverance. He had conquered his greatest internal barrier, proving anything was possible. His daily life was immeasurably enriched by the newfound ability to communicate effortlessly across global boundaries. News, media, international friends, everything became accessible, expanding his world exponentially and surprisingly. Every story he read, every conversation he had, built layers of new confidence and understanding. Each interaction was a step forward, a reinforcement of his belief in continuous learning and the power of consistent effort. The initial reluctance, the stubborn belief that English wasn't for him, felt like a distant, faded memory now. He barely recognized the person he used to be, trapped by self-doubt and fear of linguistic error. Alex became a passionate advocate for persistent, fearless English learning. He shared his story, encouraging others struggling with similar anxieties. His message was simple: embrace mistakes, they are your best teachers, truly. He eagerly shared his personal methods: listen and practice, learn English through stories, why you must read English, and most importantly, daring to, how to speak with people. These were his keys to success. He emphasized that mistakes are not errors to be avoided, but merely stepping stones to mastery, each one teaching a valuable lesson. This perspective liberated many of his listeners, inspiring them to try. The once terrifying language, which had caused so much anxiety and missed opportunities, had become a source of immense joy, connection, and profound personal growth for Alex. His world was now limitless.